Good evening, Matt Wordsworth with ABC News. Scott Morrison is re-energising his Operation Sovereign Borders and reopening the Christmas Island detention centre to manage any consequences of his government's defeat on border protection laws. Parliament today dealt its final blow to the Prime Minister, passing changes through the Senate that give doctors a greater say on when refugees and asylum seekers should be brought to Australia from Nauru and Papua New Guinea. National Affairs correspondent Greg Jennett reports from Parliament House.
Fall to about 9:50, I think.
On screen, surveillance obvious. On camera, presence unmissable. Operation Sovereign Borders is back, complete with public briefings for its minister.
It's on Bill Shorten's shoulders, the first boat that arrives.
And public broadcasts to would-be asylum seekers from the Prime Minister.
I'm here and I will stop you.
Via Cabinet's National Security Committee, Scott Morrison's approved security agencies for extra resources.
We're implementing them all 100%. Everything they are asking for, they are getting.
Congratulations. Thanks, Minister.
But as with the Sovereign Borders scheme he set up, what they get and what they do with it we may never know. On waters secrecy demands it.
I'm not at liberty to go into the detail of what they are for obvious reasons.
What he does want people to know is the Christmas Island detention centre's reopening and that his government's all defeat, no surrender.
It is still the case that our government is running border protection in this country.
The matter is resolved in the affirmative.
The last stand in the Senate ended ingloriously.
And you have the gall to come into here and talk about being responsible.
The medevac bill foist on the coalition in the House was quickly rubber-stamped despite momentary hesitation by one.
I will be supporting the passage of these amendments.
And against the government's dire, determined warnings of dangers.
As a result of Bill Shorten's bill, rapists, murderers and pedophiles will still get a free pass into this country.
Bill Shorten's got one over Scott Morrison and isn't buying his forecasts of new flotillas heading from Indonesia, now that doctor-recommended refugee medical transfers will soon begin.
There have been boats trying to come to Australia under this government. Boats will periodically, I imagine, try. It is the nature of things.
Once the Governor-General signs the changes into law, the official advice is that almost every asylum seeker and refugee would seek to transfer to Australia within weeks. That much the government must manage. But if boat arrivals were to resume, it's already busily fireproofing itself against any political heat that could follow.
All on their heads, on your head, your head, your head and your head. This man sitting opposite me is not fit to be the Prime Minister of this country, Mr Speaker.
All met with a proven response that works. Turnbacks. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Canberra.
And political editor Andrew Probyn joins us from Parliament House. Andrew, are we set for another election dominated by border protection?
Well, Matt, it certainly looks so. There's no doubt that the public sentiment has shifted towards showing more compassion for asylum seekers, and Labor has aligned itself with that changed public sentiment. But in Bill Shorten's historic humiliation of the coalition, there is a risk that he and Labor get blamed for every boat that arrives from here on. And certainly the coalition will tell us all, remind us all of Labor's checkered history when it comes to boat arrivals.
And Andrew, what should we make of the government's claim that the medevac bill will put people smugglers back in business?
Well, Labor says this is simple scaremongering. They say that the medevac bill is restricted to the 1,000 people already on Nauru and Manus. But that hasn't stopped Peter Dutton saying that the boats would start, and it hasn't stopped Scott Morrison provocatively declaring that the Christmas Island detention centre would have to reopen. The coalition has to be careful here that it doesn't look like it wants the boats to start again. Scott Morrison says he wants them stopped, but he's well aware of the political dividend that would flow if they do start again. Could be a case of prime ministerial responsibility versus political opportunity.
All right, Andrew Probyn, thank you.